to introduce a couple gentlemen here. They're both from the Soaring segment. Hey, how are you doing, Reggie?
I'm doing fine,
This
thanks.
is Reggie Sewell, Larry Rubel.
How do you do, Tom?
Thanks for coming in, guys. These gentlemen are very active in the soaring community and actually in all types of aircraft in Reggie's case. But I want to tell you a little bit of a story here that we're really pleased to hear, and it excites us every time we do. Larry was in aeromodeling years ago when he was a youth and told us that he just got involved in aeromodeling again back in 2001 or so. Guys, tell us a little bit about how that went and how you did the instruction and how you hooked up with the fellows in the club, Larry and Reggie.
Well, one of the wonderful things about living in Muncie, of course, is having the AMA here, and the Muncie Sky Chiefs, the local club, puts on a training program every Tuesday night. And in 2001, I heard about it, went out, and they provided the plane, and I learned how to fly a power plane very quickly with the help of Reggie and several other gentlemen that were kind enough to volunteer their time. And that began this whole odyssey back into radio control from my beginnings and as a young kid doing U-control flying.
So you did start with U-control when you were a youth and then got out of it, life took place, and I assume family and whatever else, and decided you wanted to get back in.
Absolutely, and it's been a wonderful experience for me. Over the past 6 years, I've gotten involved in competitions all over the Midwest and here at the national championships, and it's been a great experience.
Reggie, tell us from your view, how do you think that the program has worked with the training and et cetera that AMA's put in place? Because you've been on the instructor side.
I think it's worked very well because we've had a lot of people come through, a lot of people learn while I've been involved in it. I don't know number-wise how many people have came through, but it's been significant.
It's been good.
Yes, it has.
That's great. So both you fellas, to go on into the subject that we're going to cover here in this how-to, both of you are very actively involved with sailplanes and soaring.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's do this, fellas. What I'd like to do is get into a little bit of detail and some specifics in terms of setup, how-to, and flying tips. What we've got here is an unlimited bird, correct?
That's right.
This is, I guess I would say, for those of you that are already flying but have not tried soaring, and that's our hope with these how-to segments, that not only we encourage new people that have never been in aeromodeling to try the segment, but also individuals that are flying, and Larry mentioned this, say in power, to give sailplanes and soaring a try. But this would be considered, if you're a power flyer, a power pilot, full house. This is sort of the ultimate in the unlimited class, and a lot of times these aircraft come in composite construction. Fellas, let's take a look at the aircraft. If you would, tell me a little bit about some of the specifications on it, Larry, and then let's turn it on and run through the functions and show us what the bird does.
Tom, this is an Icon. It was designed by and built by Don Peters in Arizona, so it's an American-built plane. It's a 130-inch wingspan. It has all the control surfaces, flaps, ailerons, rudder, and elevator. It weighs about 68 ounces in its current configuration. It comes with 3 different wings. This happens to be the light layup, and then they have a layup that is called a thermal wing, which is just a little heavier layup. And then the third wing is used for F3J, which is a hand tow, which is very hard on the wings.
And that's one of the FAI classes.
That's right,
yeah.
And that's a very heavy build-up wing.
So Reggie, both of you fellows are flying in the unlimited class in some of your...
Mainly Larry's in the unlimited. I have a Emerald, which
Okay.
is in unlimited class, and I fly my AVA in the unlimited, but it isn't as competitive as the Icon.
Okay, but you both of you are flying in some of the unlimiteds.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Let's go ahead and do this. Flip the radio on, and what I'd like to do is have you run through for us what is doing what, and you can give a little bit of an overview. Let's take, for example, we're ready to launch. We're going to go up on a high starter. We're going up on a winch.
Okay.
Run us through just what you do on the control surfaces and what you would set up before you took off. Let's say on a winch.
Well, the first thing we do was we put our launch mode in. So you notice that immediately you get a deflection of the flaps and the ailerons, which really deploys them so that you have a little bit more lift as you're going up, and that's going to keep the launch higher. You also notice that there's a little bit of change in the elevator as well. Halfway into the launch, when you're about at not quite the apex of the launch, you flip it into a speed mode, which brings the whole trailing edge up just a little bit, about a degree.
Cleans it up at that point.
That's right. It cleans it up a little bit, and then at the point that you launch and you get to your ultimate height, then you put it in normal thermal mode.
Okay.
at that point.
Now, once you start looking for thermals, and I know there's a lot of equipment that's come into the sport in the fairly recent past, is there anything from a technology standpoint that helps you know that you're getting into a thermal outside of seeing the aircraft start to rise?
Well, there's certainly some new technology. The Picolerio is something that's used a lot by individuals, especially when they're training.
And what does that do? What does that piece of equipment do?
That actually, you have an earpiece, and it talks to you, tells you what the altitude of the plane is, and it also tells you through a beep whether you're going up or coming down.
So it actually will read rate of climb or sink.
That's exactly right. And the beat that you hear goes up as you go up, and it has a kind of a dull sound and much a little more separation when you're going down in elevation.
Yeah. Has it become pretty much the norm, fellas, that type of equipment, at least on a bird like this Icon, the pilots are probably using it, at least at competitions?
Well, it depends on the competition. In some areas, they outlaw using that because they
Okay.
feel it's an unfair advantage.
Pilot
It's not
only in some of the events.
That's right. So it's optional. And typically in this particular plane, we would put that inside the ballast tube.
Give us a little bit of an overview on the servos, receiver. What do you actually have in this bird? I see you have an Airtronics stylus. Tell us
That's right.
about the airborne.
I have an Airtronics receiver. We've got a 6-volt battery, which is a pretty large, about a 2100 milliamp battery. It's a Nikon battery. And then I have JR digital servos in the wing, as well as the rudder and elevator. We found those to be appropriate for this size plane, and they do a very good job.
And the digitals really will hold the control surface solid, won't they?
They will.
I mean, it gives you can be coming out of just a whale of a speed, and they just lock them. They hold them in center.
They do, and there's a tremendous amount of stress on a sailplane when it's launched.
Yes.
As much as 500 pounds, in fact, would be on the wing itself.
Which is an amazing amount. Now, one thing you mentioned, Larry, is that the Icon is actually U.S. Designed and built.
That's right.
And that's a little bit of unusual in this class aircraft. A lot of them come from Eastern Europe, correct?
That's absolutely correct. It was designed by Joe Wirtz and then built in Arizona by Don Peters, and Phil Pearson is also part of the Maple Leaf Design Company.
That's really neat. How has this bird done in the competitions?
Well, it did tremendous right from the get-go. The first competition it won was an F3J international trial,
Neat.
and Joe Wirtz came in first with it, and it's done very well in the ensuing years.
Yeah. Let's switch over, guys, just for a minute let's take it. And you were not very long ago, from what you told us, at least in the early 2000s, a new pilot again to Soaring. What would be input you fellas would give a rank beginner for sailplanes? What type of aircraft would you recommend that they take a look at in terms of type? Reggie, you might give us some input. You're over at at one of the local hobby shops, correct? At
Yes,
Muncie,
I work
Muncie Model.
part-time at Muncie Model.
Yeah,
Hobby.
so you have that question asked probably almost daily from
Yes.
customers. Give us just an overview of what you would recommend in that instance as far as type of aircraft, and it's fine to say some examples of
Well,
of
I would
brands.
suggest going with a polyhedral wing, which is 2 brakes in the wing. This is a brake here. You've got a different angle. Polyhedral means you have more than 2. And they call them polyhedrals, such as possibly a Gentle Lady. That's a good one.
That was one of the Carl Goldberg
Carl
aircraft?
Goldberg, and I believe there's other companies making it,
Yeah.
selling it now. But that would be one. The Spirit is another one, and SIG makes one called a Riser.
Okay.
They make it in a standard class, which is 100-inch, and they also make it in a 2-meter class.
Give us an idea, for example, on the Gentle Lady, Reggie. This is a full house aircraft. It's actually got, I guess we said, 4 servos in the wings and rudder, so on. What number of channels would you typically have in the Gentle Lady? So we give the fellows an idea of what the audience, what the equipment will be required to fly the Gentle Lady.
You can fly a Gentle Lady with a 3-channel
Okay.
radio, just a basic 3-channel radio. That would be the elevator, the rudder, and, well, 2-channel actually.
Okay.
And you can have a locking hook, but very few people use those anymore.
Yeah, it's a release.
That's a captive hook.
I know you're asked this in the hobby shop, and actually we're all asked it at the field. Give us an idea, fellas, between this aircraft, an idea of equipment cost, the aircraft ready and the radio, and let's also compare it to the Gentle Lady, because we know that's a bird that's aimed more at a newcomer. I also want to interject, and correct me, Reggie, if this isn't accurate, that The General Lady was originally a full build-up kit, and I think still is. It's a kit. But there are a number of aircraft that are available now that are RTFs or ARFs, ready to fly or almost ready to fly, that are in that category as well, correct, for the new person?
That's true.
But go ahead and give us the input on what's the price range of this type aircraft versus the General Lady,
Well, on the Icon,
with radio and everything.
it would represent the top end of sailplaning, and so you could have as much as $3,000 in a complete plane with your
radio
with the
and
Airtronics radio receiver, all the servos, and you can get started in this hobby with the, as Reggie was saying, with the basic radio and that plane, and probably in the $200 to $250 range,
Yeah.
and have a complete outfit that you can get a great deal of joy out of.
And really have a nice flying aircraft.
Absolutely, you can have a wonderful experience. In fact, one of the great things about soaring is that it really doesn't matter how expensive the plane is. It's a great experience at any level.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's there's a kind of a push going on right now to go not back to the built-up airplanes such as the General Lady, but there is a group of people that's starting contest called Woody airplanes, which means
Have the more traditional style construction.
right, and that way people with families that would not be able to justify spending $2,000 or $3,000 on an airplane, they can have a lot of fun with just built up basic airplanes.
Yeah, absolutely. Still get the whole family involved and have a reasonable cost.
Right.
Well, let's do this. This is great information on the unlimited class here, and what I'd like to do, and I know you fellows have brought some with you, is show some examples of the other types of soaring. I know that we've got hand launch, we've also got the slope soaring. Let's go ahead and grab one of those birds and just give a little bit of information on it. I think, Larry, you're grabbing one of the hand launch birds.
Right.
There's a couple different versions of a hand launch. I think, tell us what those are.
Well, primarily, hand launch started out as a javelin throw, where you would basically hold on to the bottom of the fuselage and throw it straight out. But now it's evolved into what's called the discus launch. And if you'll notice on the wingtip, there's a pin, and that is used where you just hold that with whether you're right-handed or left-handed, the pin would be on one side or the other. And you turn around just like a person who's going to do a discus in track. If you're familiar with that spinning motion, you spin around and the plane will actually be launched between 100 and 150 feet up into the air. And then at that point, you try to find a thermal at a low level.
Yeah, so if you can get that kind of altitude from the hand launch, you actually are going and looking for thermals at that point.
Absolutely. A typical contest involving a hand launch would be a 10-minute window, and you might have 10 one-minute flights or 5 two-minute flights, or a combination thereof would be typical. But these planes are capable of soaring for well beyond 10 minutes if you're in a very large thermal or in a good conditions.
I've had my record is a little over an hour from a hand
Oh,
launch.
wow. From a hand launch
From a
aircraft.
hand launch, yes.
That's really neat. And do we have the same range of costs for entry, or I see this is a fairly nice looking with some carbon and so on, or is this one this category lean more towards the higher end from a cost standpoint?
From the standpoint of hand launch, this would be on the higher end. It's a competition plane built by Denny Mays at Polecat Aeroworks, and it involves a great deal of time to construct it, just like a large plane would. This has a 59-inch wingspan. It weighs about 8.5 ounces. It has Polk servos in it that are extremely light. And it's amazing how strong this plane is for only 8.5 ounces.
That's really neat. Let's show everybody the slope soaring aircraft, guys, as our last category here. Give us a little bit of a description of this aircraft and tell us what slope soaring means.
Well, this is a power scale slope plane, and sloping involves wind hitting basically hitting a slope, and it drives the lift straight up. In Indiana, we don't have too many mountains. So
no, it's pretty flat here.
That's right. So we don't have a lot of slope soaring sites, but we do have a great one at Brookville Dam in southern Indiana, where we can fly for hours. In fact, many soaring pilots have gotten their 8-hour LSF flight at Brookville. This particular plane is a P-63 Air Cobra, and it's made out of EPP foam. It's designed by Jack Cooper at Leading Edge Gliders, and weighs about 58 ounces in its fully constructed and balanced form. As you can see, it basically has ailerons and an elevator. So really you only have to have a 2-channel radio to run this, and only has 2 servos. One servo drives both of the ailerons, the other one drives the elevator. And it's a very aerobatic plane. It's really a lot of fun to fly.
That's really neat. That's great, guys. Well, listen, I really appreciate both of you coming by. I hope we've given the folks and existing members and others a reason to take a look at Soaring. And as you can see, there's quite a number of aircraft types, and there is definitely a large range in terms of cost, so you don't have to be afraid that you're going to have to drop the house and the mortgage or college savings into getting an aircraft.